Good afternoon. It's Mr. Charles. My wife and I closed our first wholesale deal in 2017. We started mentoring after that. Intention behind this video is to share a little bit of light, a few tips, a little knowledge in the real estate wholesale process. So real estate wholesale is when an individual can come in and help a seller in a situation where they don't want to sell themselves and they don't want to sell to a realtor. You put the property under contract, you go out, find the buyer buys the contract, you get paid for the contract, and that buyer takes the seller to close. That's the first way you do it. The second way you do it is you put the property under contract with the seller, meaning the seller signs the sale to you. Then you go out, find the buyer, you act as if you are the owner of the property. You sign the seller to them at a higher price. You take those to a closing attorney, and they do what's called a double close. Meaning the seller doesn't know that you sold to somebody, the buyer doesn't know that you weren't the owner, but you get paid the middle money. So say the contract was $100,000 with the seller, and then you go to the buyer and act like you're the seller, and you sign a purchase contract selling to him for $120,000. Basically, the attorney's gonna get $120,000, send $100 to the first seller, and then send you a $20,000 cut. That's the second one we're doing wholesale. The first way is simply you got that contract for $100,000. You're upfront with the buyer. Hey, I'm an investor. I practice wholesale. I'm selling my rights to the contract. And then they go ahead. They send you that $20,000. All right. You sign an assignment agreement that straight up says that you're selling your rights for that $20,000. And then you close to the attorney that way. But the second way you can get your cash up front, being that you just selling the contract. So you just sign over the rights to the contract, get your cash. Buyer decides if he wants to close and how he wants to close, if they still have an inspection period.
Yeah.
Alright, so those are the two ways you can do it. The assignment method and the double close method. Step 1, property under contract with the seller. Step 2, you assign the contract to the buyer. Step 3, you get paid. You follow me? Alright, the second way to do it, step 1, you sign the contract with the seller. Step 2, you sign a purchase and sell agreement with the buyer as if you own the property. And step 3, you double close via closing agency. Alright, so there's two ways you can do it. The different ways to go about finding the seller, finding the buyer, and closing. There's local ways, there's virtual ways. The local ways, you can drive for dollars, meaning you make yourself a list of targeted properties. I recommend ugly, empty properties, the ugliest empty properties in your neighborhood. You make a list of those, you go online, property appraiser site, you find out where the owners live. I say don't worry about the ones that you have to mail. Don't worry about the ones you have to skip trace. Only focus on the ones that live locally. That means they're in-town, absentee, vacant property owners. That means they're in town, that means they live in town, and they own vacant property. Alright, they're vacant property owners and they're in town. That means they own a house here, it's empty and messed up, and they live right over here. Alright, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, a few miles away. Focus on them. That's what we did. Go and door knock on the houses. Once you go door knock on the houses, let them know what you do. I'll give you a script. Say, good afternoon. I am the real estate investor. Then say your name. Go ahead and say what you want.
The contracts that I have, because my husband and I, we actually.
What is that? You want them to sign to sell you their property. So just ask them that. Good afternoon. I'm the real estate investor. Your name. I'd like you to sell me your property today. I'll sign to give me the price. I'll sign to pay out closing costs. And then go from there. They're going to ask more questions. You got 2 options. You can lie and act like you're a cash buyer. I don't recommend. Or you can just be open. And that's why you saw me pause, because there's a lot of people in the investor world who believe that you act like a cash buyer. You can do that, but I don't teach that. I teach you just educate the seller. So once you go ahead and say that spiel, good afternoon, I'm the real estate investor, you say your name, I like the sellers to sign to sell me their property today. I sign to give me any price, I sign to pay out closing costs. You know, saying like, why would you sign for any price? Alright, because I only use a 21-day contract, 14-day inspection period. You go the first 14 days marketing the property, you're going to get buyers. You don't get a buyer at the price, great, just re-sign lower. You still get the contract and you still get the buyers moving forward. I teach you educate. So once they ask questions, you go and let them know, hey, I'm an investor who practices the investment strategy known as wholesale. I bring sellers buyer for their properties, 21 days or less, any price they want. Are you familiar with wholesale? Boom. That's what I recommend you say. And then from there, you educate. If they have heard of it, you go back and forth. If they haven't heard of it, you educate them. Let them know, yes, it's a 21-day contract. You sign to sell to me. I go out 14 days, find a buyer. I don't, I back out. But if I do, they buy the contract, taking the closing. You just go back and forth like that. Either the seller's going to want to sign the sale when you being upfront, or they're not. When you be upfront versus acting like a cash buyer, they can refer you. In their mind, they're going to think, even if they don't want to sign the sale to you, hey, this person, all right, if I want to sell to a realtor, or if I want to sell myself, I can sign the sale to them. You know, they're just going to go out for 14 days to go find me a buyer, and if they don't, they back out. But if I do, they get paid. You know, tell people about that, and you'll get referrals. So, I mean, you don't want to hear that, you don't want to hear that. You can go acting like a cash buyer and hiding everybody from everybody the way the gurus do it. But I suggest you reinvent the game. All right, be open, be honest, explain. But you go out there, you do that, however you want to do it. You know, you make a drive for dollar list, you go door knock locally, you give your pitch. You know, you put out bandit signs that say we buy all property cash. They call your phone number. When they call, you give your pitch, which is the same thing. Good afternoon, I'm the realtor. I'd like you to sign to sell me your property today. Sign to give me your price. Sign to pay our closing costs. You know, and then they ask the questions. Explain it. I'm an investor. Practice the investment strategy known as wholesale. All right. When you don't want to sell yourself, you don't want to sell to realty, you can sign to sell to me. I use a 21-day contract. I get 14 days to go out and find you a buyer. If I don't, I back out. But if I do, you get paid. Just need to go over the contract. And if we both fill it out, and once we have it filled out, we'll go ahead and start working for you. That's initially all you guys want to do. That's all you want to do. You know, you just want to go out there, find sellers, let them know what you do. Then you go out there, and the buyers are easy. The buyers know what you do. Hey, I'm an investor, practice hotel. I sell contracts. Seller signed to sell for me to this price. If you want the contract, you're buying the contract for this price. Send the money to the title company first. Once you have, I'll wire it over you. You know, I gotta go now, but if you guys would like to get further help, you know, a mentorship, as far as mentorship goes and getting your first deal under contract and sold, feel free to call my wife and I at the number provided. If you don't got it, it's 863-257-1415. We're available today. God bless you.